let's get started, shall we? Mikael, are you there and are you ready?
Here and ready.
Awesome. Guys, thank you very much for joining us today. This is the session for 10 last minute tips before the European Accessibility Act comes around. We are Vimo. My name is Henry, and joined with Mikael today, and we'll be taking you through the next hour to kind of get us all ready and some of the kind of things that we've learned along the way working in accessibility. Just wanted to kick off that by coincidence, if anybody was aware that yesterday was Global Accessibility Awareness Day, so very poignant timing. And today, if you're interested, is International Day of Living Together in Peace. Also quite important for a Friday is that it's National Mimosa Day. So depending on what your guys' afternoon plans are, then maybe that is very apt to seed the idea of having a drink of that sort. Just as I mentioned, hi, my name's Henry. I'm head of experience consulting at Vimo. I've been working in the experience design, solution strategy, and accessibility and kind of inclusive design for users for the last many years. And so this is my space that I work with, and I'm joined with Mikael today.
Yeah, so I'm Mikael. I have been working with or for Vimo since forever, feels like. So I've been a Vimo client actually 4 times sitting in your chairs. Now I'm agency side. I'm everything e-commerce, and I am your resident accessibility expert.
So we will be looking after you today. What we will cover is just a level set and get us all on the same page of what is accessibility, what is the EAA, the regulations that are going on. We'll do a very light background just to kind of make sure we're in the same room. Then we will go through our top 10 tips to put you in the right direction. Some of the things we've seen, learned, tricks, tips, you name it. We've got a bit of factoids for you. And then a bit of fun questions and things to keep it engaging. So we really encourage that. You'll see on in this forum, there's the ability to add questions. So as we go through, please feel very welcome to throw some questions in, and we'll have a point to run through anything, answer what you might have. We can regroup things if something didn't make sense or you wanted to double click on in it at the end as well. And you'll note that the deck is very content rich. Apologies for the word overload. Don't try and read everything. That's not necessary. We will take you through everything that's of salient importance to kind of pull out. But it's also intended for you guys at the end as well to have this material. So we're more than willing to share this, and we will send that out as post comms as well. With that further ado, we will jump into it. The other piece is around this isn't providing any legal hard advice. It's sort of a disclaimer on our point that said there's a lot of knowledge here. We are coming up to a deadline of when the European Accessibility Act will be into effect. This is our experience and learnings and things that you might find useful. We really hope you enjoy the masterclass, take notes, ask questions. This is supposed to be interactive as possible, but it's our view. And we hope you get a lot of value out of it today. But we wanted to kick off with a couple of questions, just to understand the room. The first one being around, do you think that your current e-commerce website today is compliant? Quick yes, no, just to understand whether you guys are in a level of confidence or you're not sure. And we'll just wait a couple of seconds for those to come in. And that's creeping in nicely. I can tell you that about 90%, 94% are saying no, we are not compliant. There is 6% who have a good level of understanding that they are compliant, which is awesome to see that you guys are on the proactive side there. But that is just showing that we're at a point where we don't have that level. It's sort of creeped around. We've only had 5 years notice that this European Accessibility Act was coming, and how can you be fully compliant? So we'll talk into that as well. So the second question that we wanted to have was, who here is actively solving for accessibility on your site right now? Are you totally on top of it and you've got a great game plan? You think that somebody in the company might be looking at it, most likely you who are on the call today. A few teams are doing things in it, so there's a proactive movement around, or is there generally nothing happening that you're aware of through your business? And I'll just let some of those come in. Just so you know, we will share these survey readouts as well. So in the deck at the end, when you'll have these stats as well, if you some of them are useful as sound bites and points to leverage on. But as the results are coming in, we are looking around 25% saying nothing at all yet. 50%, oh, that just shifted. 50% saying few teams are doing things, and someone in the company is looking at it as around 33%. So we've got, it's sort of in there, but no one's feeling like they're totally on top of it, which is good, because then we all know we're in the same room and we're all having the same fear that's coming around for June. So the key thing to note around this is the global market of people with disabilities is over 1 billion people. I think it's 1.3 billion people, and they have a spending capacity of $6 trillion. So what we're talking about here is not a small edge case topic and customer segment that should be ignored. Some more numbers, because we love data points, is the World Health Organization backed that stat up as well. 1.3 billion people with long-term disability. It's very interesting to know that we should also be considering in short-term disabilities as well. So people with issues of less than 6 months. That's 400 million people have so a broken arm or eye impediment or something like that. About 400 million people a year have issues as well, and challenges. And then there are 21 official forms of disabilities to consider. So that's quite good stats. And like I just alluded to, this isn't about disability, it's about the situational incapacity to do things as well. So there are people, when you're in the sunshine or you're wearing sunglasses or in low light, you've got contrast issues when you're looking at your devices. Immobility, so temporary issues with having a broken arm is a great example, or recovering from an eye operation, etc. So there are issues from using your standard ability that you are used to having. Noise and kind of environmental factors are key things that would class under disability as well, which is the sense to be able to get things done in the normal standard closed environments, and that into environmental issues. So the idea that we all believe that we sit at a desk with a computer in perfect posture and work from 9 to 5, you are there with many different careers, many different environments that you would be doing and interacting with technology. So people shop and behave in very different manners and ways to their lifestyle. So that should be considered within this topic as well. Just to give us EAA in a nutshell. So the European Accessibility Act is the new law that's coming into effect in June 28th. That is next month for people who haven't looked at their calendar. And it is focusing on digital products and services that include e-commerce websites, apps, and it must be used for people with disabilities. You may have also heard that there is a June 2030 deadline. So to just debunk or clarify where that stands, there are two different things that we're talking around here: services and products. So this 2030 is more focused around products, which is physical goods that have digital interfaces. So ATM payment machines, customer technologies, self-service kiosks, anything that you interact with that is a physical product that you sell, that needs to become compliant by June 2030. What we are talking about today is the June 28 deadline of this year, which is about the websites, e-commerce platforms, digital banking, tickets, etc. It's proper commercial things that we have, that we expect today. So there's a slight difference and nuance on that one, but just to clarify that the deadline we are looking at is the closest one.
Yeah, I can pitch in with some details on this legislation, because what's behind the legislation really is this WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's an initiative that was originally pushed by World Wide Web Consortium, W3C. This WCAG guideline, you can consider it the closest thing to an official, let's call it a checklist. Checklist is a bad word for it, but I'll come into that. But let's call it a checklist for building a site with good compliance. The EU legislation is based on these guidelines. The current standard, it is WCAG 2.1, but we have 2.2 on the horizon with more items to consider on an already long list of items. So you have 86 items to check for in total, or topics. So we within Vimo, we're testing towards WCAG 2.2. That's the one you want to use. Each of these has 3 levels of compliance. So you have from A to AAA. Level A, it's too basic to be compliant. AAA, then you hit all the nuts and bolts just right. But doing that is very hard and very costly. So the AA compliance is the sweet spot you want to aim for if you want to reduce your risks towards not being compliant towards the legislation. So the WCAG standard is built on 4 different principles. So a site needs to be perceivable, which means that people with visual, auditory, or other disabilities, they must be able to figure out what is the site about. So if I can't see, I shouldn't have to rely on images. If I can't hear, I shouldn't be able to rely on sound. The second principle is that the site needs to be operable. That means I should be able to use your site with my keyboard only. I will use tab for navigation. I would use enter space for interacting with elements. It also means that if I have a mobile device, when I want to click a button, I click that button and not just something that's 2 pixels underneath it. So it needs to be not cluttered. Then it needs to be understandable. So you have physical disabilities and then you have cognitive disabilities. So it might be you have a looping video that could distract many of your users. It could be that you are missing good guidance with labels or error messages, or your site is not well and logically structured. So that falls under understandable. Robust means that the site needs to be built in a way where assistive technologies can understand what the site is about. So if I read the code only, I have developer experience, I could do that. I should be able to actually tell what's is displayed in the browser. If I can't, if an assistive technology can't do that, you're not compliant.
So the key theme that keeps coming through is that it's all about the lawsuits and the risk and non-compliance and making sure that you're legally adhering to what the EAA is asking of you. There's 2 sides of that coin, and I'll get to the other one shortly, but this one is a kind of a temperature gauge of what we can expect. So last year, there were over 3,000 ADA website accessibility lawsuits filed. So the ADA is the American Disabilities Act. It's the equivalent in the United States. So there were that many lawsuits. There were 77% of those were focused on e-commerce. And the fines that were, the violation fines that are set out are $75,000 for the first offence, and they move to $150,000 for every one thereafter that's discovered on that site. The payouts are different, and they can be anything from 25,000 and into one instance up to 6 million. That in euros equivalent is where the European Union are looking at. That's a good benchmark of what the US do. They will be looking for something similar there. This has not been set, or there haven't been any fines because the act isn't active yet, but we can expect something within this scale and this kind of severity to be coming into place as well. They are benchmarking. There are other governing bodies like in Japan, Canada, Australia, who have their own versions of this as well. But the European one is the strictest one, and it has the densest market and the most operable impact right now. So it's good to be aware that these are sort of the numbers that are to date and are a reality happening and being paid for, and we should be expecting something like along this line when the European Union EAA comes into effect. And it's not just for the big players. This isn't just, hey, everybody's targeting the big e-commerce channels. This will impact anybody that has more than 10 employees and over 2 million in revenue per year. The highest risk is the e-commerce space. It will be moving into the B2B space and even to customer and user portals. The regulations will evolve into that way because it's a sweeping rule, but they're starting at the closest tip of the spear first, which is where most people consume and engage with e-commerce. But it will be trickling down throughout the business across the layers. It is accessibility for all, not just at a transactional retail point of view. And the offences, so 41% of companies who were sued have faced previous accessibility lawsuits in the past as well, which means you might get one lawsuit. That's great, that's bad luck. But there's also a high probability that you will have that again. So it won't be so lightning can strike twice in the same place, and that's something to be cognitive about as well. Like I said, on the other flip side, this isn't about just getting compliant, ticking a box, and getting kind of the EAA Act off your back. There is a real positive upside to taking this seriously, putting great focus through your business and having it in place, because it is a commercial driver as well. It helps detect issues that are within your website, and you can fix those things to improve the natural progression through customer journeys. So we are reducing friction. Customer satisfaction, a better experience. We all know that's what we're aiming for. That's what the CRO and experimentation teams live in. We improve the experience, the better site engagement, better progression, again, increase the traffic. So the more that you're improving your site as the authority and credibility factors, the bots score it with SEO rankings. So it boosts your organic traffic and your credibility and your availability out there as well. So, and it also expands your market reach, your customer reach. Like we mentioned, there's a lot of customers with disabilities. If they can use your site, that goes a long way in terms of customer loyalty, lifetime value, but it attracts the right customers coming in as well. So it expands that market reach. It gives you the right site authority. And it improves the content. So what we're doing is improving a lot of front-end things, a lot of functional things. But the way that you present content is served and understood by the reader. It increases their confidence to take action on that. The more credible it is, the better your value proposition is placed, and that improves your conversion ability. So these are all uplifts, and they're all kind of pillars and foundations of what influences conversion. All of these things, by making the improvements to your accessibility issues that you might find and remedying them, has a really significant upside as well. In summary, the commercial side is enhancing your SEO performance, it improves the usability of the site, you get much higher engagement and likelihood for conversion, and it increases your market opportunity space. The integrity side is it reduces the legal and financial risk for sure. We've done those numbers there. It gets you faster bug resolution because the way that developers and QAs and designers are thinking about the the new improvements they're putting through the site. It gives another lens of how they look at that, and the due diligence is improved. It absolutely strengthens the corporate social responsibility. I think that's important for businesses to hold, and it optimizes the product development roadmap and cycle. Again, back to the bug resolution. I meant there's kind of crossover there, but it optimizes the way that you build out your solutions to be more cognizant of it.
All right. I want to get into the more technical, more in-depth topics around accessibility. But before doing that, so there's this quote, the power of the web is in its universality, sorry about that. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. So this one sounds very far-reaching, and it is. So before the internet, people who couldn't read a book, now they have access to the internet, they have access to more content. And it's the same with audio coming to the internet, video coming to the internet. It's become more and more accessible. So in short, in the way old days, the internet wasn't accessible. Now it's way more accessible, which means that your customer base, if you build it just right, grows. Henrik mentioned that 1.3 billion users, they have long-term disabilities, and I believe it was 400 million with short-term disabilities. And the actual number of your site visitors with disabilities, it's actually much, much higher. So consider if you're using a mobile device on a bus. Now you have issues with motor skills, and you have cognitive disabilities, because it's a very distracting environment. If you're multitasking, for instance, right now, I can tell you that 25% of your capacity is available for this presentation, 25% for whatever else you're doing. So if you're multitasking, sorry, you're not doing a good job. It's half your output you could be doing. You have a disability there. Consider you are using a site, you want to buy something, and you have a child asking you questions. You have a cognitive disability then. If you're out in the sun, as Henry mentioned, you have issues with contrast. If you're in a shared office space without your headset, you have a disability. You have to rely on captions to watch videos. So this is not just about, when you think like accessibility, this is for people with disabilities. It's pretty much damn well for everyone. So let's go into the details. We'll share the top 10 tips and tricks about how do you go about with accessibility. So the first thing, tip number one, is it's about the mindset. And the core of it is increasing inclusiveness, which is about removing barriers. And here, the core of it is removing barriers for people with disabilities. But the thing is, when you do this, you improve the experience for everyone. And that means there's the legal side of it. But as Henry mentioned, there's very much also the commercial side of it, where you increase engagement and conversion rate, because your site basically is easier to use, it's easier to understand, it's better. So next up, diving further into this. So the most important principle of the right mindset, it's understanding your users. So to do that, you need to understand which kind of disabilities exist and how users compensate for disabilities. They can either use assistive technologies or they can use other tricks. I'll highlight some of those later. The thing is, it's not about checklists. It's about people, and it's for everyone, not just a subset of people. I want to drive that home because it's important. You could, if you took the checklist, you could actually build a site that was fully compliant, but the UX would suck. It's possible. So put yourself in your user's shoes and then consider the human side of the design, not just the technical side. Then you're in the right mind space. If you don't have any technical skills or don't want to use any tools, you can actually do a quick test of your site right now. So one thing is, if you open your site and you want to see how can people with keyboard only access your site, you open it and you start tapping through the site. And what you'll likely find is, one, there are parts of the site you can't access. You would need to access it in order to purchase a product, lost revenue. Then you could be stuck in what's called a keyboard trap, meaning as you tap through the site, at some form or some element, it just cycles that element and you're stuck. Again, you're lost. You have to reload and start over. And you would, I would say 99% of you would probably at some point get lost in your site because you can't see where the focus is. So you can't see as you tap what element is actually active. So that's one thing. The other one is if you zoom in on the page and then or increase text size, and then you zoom in more and then a little bit more. So what you're doing here is you are simulating how the site is experienced by people with poor eyesight or like a major part of the population, the elderly people having issues focusing, they zoom. And what do you see here? You often see issues with a pop-up that appears, well, off screen. It's not in your zoom area, and you have no knowledge this is happening. And you can't progress, or you can, but it's not easy. You would also see something like text not wrapping properly, so that I would, as a user, be forced to scroll right and left and down to read the text. If you ever try this, it's damn hard. It's time consuming, it's taxing. It's a hell, honestly. Then you can see how is your site performing with if you have cognitive issues. So elderly people have issues in this, usually in this regard. So show your site to an elderly person, ask them to complete a purchase or perform a task in your site, and you will see if there are any cognitive issues. And then the links. So what you will have, they could be links, your buttons. Can you read these comfortably without squinting? You will, in many cases, many other sites I've audited, I found issues with poor contrast between the text and the background. And there are certain requirements you need to meet, like needs to be a contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1 or 3 to 1, depending on the text size. And quite often, as an experienced tester, I'm quite surprised that it didn't actually meet the contrast criteria. So you have colorblind people having issues looking at that your link, important link or your button. Yeah, these four issues, it's easy to test. It doesn't require any technical knowledge at all. How to address it? So the main point is you need to try to fix the most common issues first. Like one would be contrast. So look at your links, look at your buttons, focus indicators, your backgrounds. Is it good? It's one of those where if you fix that, you fix it for one page, you fix it for the entire site. So that's one of the quick wins you have. Another one, that's looking at your labels for input fields and error messages. Usually these are either done by developers or they're done as part of the content production in the implementation, which always has low priority. At some point, we just need to get the site live. And it shows. So these labels can be improved. And then another one, is images. Do they have a good alt text so I don't have to rely on images? Also, you don't need or you don't want an alt text on all images. Some images are decorative, and you do not want a screen reader to read bullet text, bullet text. So you can actually be in non-compliance if you have alt text on all images even. And then there are the links. So having a good link description, what happens when I click this link is crucial. Click here, read more. You often see that, and it's not compliant, and it's not very good for converting, actually. Keyboard navigation, tapping through the site is also a thing you can test and then fix easily. And if you're thinking, well, many of these things sound kind of related to conversion rate optimization, so A/B split tests, it's the same thing. You want to make the site easier for your users to use, making more users convert, and basically earning more money. So there's a nice overlap between this and accessibility. Next tip number 4. If you want to dig deeper, so you want to use some of those tools out there for accessibility checks. Here we have listed 4. We are using more within Vimo. You'll see some of them later. But you can dig deeper if you have the right knowledge and if you're tech savvy. So there's Lighthouse. It will give you an audit score, accessibility score. You have Wave, you have AXDevTools and IBM Toolkit. And some of these tools, they can do automated tests. The main thing about that, all the tools I've seen, they cover at most 30% of the issues you need to conform, like the requirements you need to conform to. 30% of that can be caught with an automated tool. 70%, that's the manual part. With these tools, what you can do with the automated test, you can get an indication. Do you have issues with ARIA labels? So might be a bit technical. It's part of the code that tells a browser or an assistive tool, what is the role of this element? It's a button, it's an accordion. Is it enabled, disabled, stuff like that. It can also tell you whether you have good structure and do you have issues with visual cues? Do you have issues with site pop-ups? But most of these issues, there's no tool that can find that for you. Yeah.
Okay, poll time. Let me just push up the next question, but wanting to understand who here on the call are considering accessibility widgets or are actually using widgets today. So awesome, coming in. So this is a sort of leading question coming in, which is, we can see that the numbers are shifting just a little bit, but we've got roughly 35% of people are using these accessibility widgets, 40% are not, and the remainder is questioning what is an overlay, which is absolutely fair. Accessibility overlays are like plug-in components for your website that emulate and help support accessibility issues by changing the contrast. You'll see this little symbol of this little guy in the middle here on a lot of websites. You click on that and you can change font sizes and widgets and remove screen components that are distracting. It's a silver bullet that's being sold in our view, and you'll see that there's some other kind of backing on that as well, that they come with some other inherent problems that may not be available on the surface. They are on the front end great because you can plug them in and off you go and you have some accessibility capabilities added to the site. But they don't fully fix all of the issues that they claim to fix. And I'll explain that in a second. The extra functionalities that they provide, a lot of them are redundant and aren't part of the compliance needs that are being asked of us. But the really key one is that those widgets and overlays that interfere with assistive technologies that people with disabilities actually have within their own technology ecosystem as well. So if they have specialist keyboards, or they have different screens, or they have different components that help them interact with technology, those widgets clash into the way that that technology works. So you could be getting a double negative working on trying to help people with disabilities. It also encourages a non-sustainable approach to accessibility. And what I mean there is that you could put this widget in place, and let's say 2-3 years down the line, your website hasn't evolved or in any great direction to be more compliant, to be more accessible. You're reliant heavily on this widget. But imagine that that widget suddenly disappears. You are 3 years behind the development and the evolution of your site that should be moving in the right direction for accessibility, where all its other peers and all of your contemporaries and your competitors have moved forwards as well. The standards and the legal framework don't favor, and 1,000 companies that we mentioned at the ADA, they were sued because the widgets themselves didn't address or didn't fix the problems that they were claiming to fix. They weren't deemed as good enough as accessibility solutions. The authorities and users alike don't love them. The European Commission's Directorate General for Communication, which is an awesome title, stated that they cannot endorse tools or products categorized as overlay tools or widgets. They also don't see within to the deeper level of where Mikael was talking around on they can cater for what they can see on the site at the time. But there's a lot of components that have manual bits that change the code within it, and they don't react well to the manual engagements that you have within sites. When you think about PLP pages and advanced searches and filters, that changes dynamically the way the screen is presented. Haben Grima, who's a human rights lawyer, who's a deafblind person, she publicly states that you should be aware of these AI-based solutions and the full that we need to be taking full responsibility for accessibility. She has a good voice on this, and the overly fact sheet signed by accessibility experts and end users with disabilities. There was a big signing form around the advocacy of removing web accessibility overlays. I'm not trying to be damning on them. I think they provide a very good service that has helped us get us quite far along the way. But I would absolutely state the future, in my opinion, is that they're not geared for success for your e-commerce environment, and that it mitigates the value that you should be putting in place.
Yeah, it very much ties into they're relying on the same tech as the automation, like for automated test tools, which cover 30%. So there you have it. Another tip about accessibility. This is not about the technical details as such, but more on how you approach it within the organization. So there's this thing called shift accessibility left. And what is it? At the core, you need to think of accessibility as early as possible in the project. So are you planning to do content? Then think accessibility when planning producing it and launching it on the site. So you have content, you need to make sure that the text is easily readable, that if it contains like difficult words or technical jargon, the audience needs to be able to understand that. If you're planning a new feature, for instance, then designing the feature, so could be the UX of the feature or how the feature is used. Better to think accessibility before it's being developed than afterwards when you figure out, okay, so it wasn't actually compliant and we need to redo it. You also need to think about it when obviously coding it. So the developers need to be trained in how do they develop in an accessibly friendly way. You need to think about it when you test during QA and then verify when it's launched. And if you are thinking of adding a new third-party service, you need to make sure it's accessible. It's your site, it's your responsibility that it's accessible. Ask that question in front. So I have these points. If you read through them, all right, nice. They give you the right mindset for this. You can read it later. I won't go through it. One thing you have as you need to consider accessibility, it's not just developers, and it's not just one-time thing. So again, new content, new features, a new campaign, new redesign. Your site is a living, breathing entity. And it's not just the e-commerce part of your organization that needs to consider it. It goes into your marketing, content department, anything that and have any say or influence on the what ends up on the site. They need to be able to think and understand what is accessibility. Also, that means you need to provide training. You need to provide standards. So education is key. If you're procuring third-party services, if you're looking into which services you could potentially add to the site, ask that question up front and save yourself a headache. Good. And if you don't do this, you won't be compliant over time. Go ahead, Henry.
Yes, just building on that one. So this is often delegated to departments, like many projects are. There's an owner, but we really view that accessibility is a company shift. It's a conclusion mindset, and it impacts everybody. There's a lot of people who say this isn't part of my world, but actually the onboarding of legal wants to know that they're doing the due diligence and becoming compliant. The developers want to know that they've got the right framework and that they're building things in the correct way. QA have to validate our homework and make, what they consistently send back to us and say it's not good enough and not ready is a painful truth. But I think having accessibility put in there is key with the QA teams as well. It starts way up front with the designers, the product managers, the content generation. Have we written the right briefing in the right criterias? Marketing have hundreds of campaigns that run out, different styles, different target audiences, different styles, different themes. They want to make sure that they're doing things in the right way as well. And leadership, absolutely at the core, should be emulating, and it should be a top-down as well as a bottom-up approach, that they're building a company ethos, reputation, and mitigating financial risk as the two sides that we're doing the right things. So the biggest effort to get this to win at accessibility is to make sure that it's a natural mindset within the company. It's baked into the way of working. There is business accountability and priority on it. That accessibilities are put into people's checklists and acceptance criterias, and that there's even room for the budgeting within the P&L, which can be tough. That's a big hurdle. That's a big rock to move. But once that's in there, it rolls down the hill very, very quickly, and people fall in line and they really understand the value of it. So communication of what this is just as important as us getting ready for the deadline that's pending as well. And so on that one, we have another quick poll. Question one, so who here is feeling that they're prepared for managing accessibility compliance through their business? Do you feel like you know what you need to do? Are there strong gaps of knowledge within the business? Or is it absolute pandemonium and panic, and it's like the company doesn't know what to do, where to prioritize, how to look at things? How are you guys feeling with it? Awesome, coming through. So we have a small percentage of people who are in the panic phase, shall I say. There are gaps in knowledge that we're looking at. 60% around are saying gaps in knowledge, which is good to see, but obviously not 100% there. and knowing what to do. There's a small percentage, creeped up to 20%, who say they know what they need to do, which is awesome. I mean, it's close. We've had time to get ready for it, but it's interesting to see that there is still gaps in that experience. Question 2, just to build on that, what is your company's level of confidence on this subject overall? Is it, hey, we're here, we're ready to bring it on. We're belts and braces set to do this. This is in our company mindset and ethos already. Or is it, yeah, we got some knowledge around this, and we've got that mindset in place? Or is it, I think someone in the team is looking after this, and we'll be all right? But is it really bought in throughout the business? Or is it actually, again, oops, what is this all about? What is the company thinking about still? Well, the votes are coming in strong, but we're leading on plus 70% of saying, I think collectively within the team we will be okay. That's a good faith, trust in your peers, and it's the right way. It's in the right direction, which is fantastic. Thank you for answering those ones. Is this my one? I'll take this one. So, what is tip 8 is to think of, is to really do an audit. There's nothing else that will give you the benchmark of what's going on in your site, give you the health. It's you will find that you have hundreds of issues. I don't think any audit that we've done has had less than 200 for a site, and it's always upwards of that. And the idea is that can be overwhelming. There are hundreds of things. How do we get this all planned in? And the idea is it's not as worrying and as scary as that, because there are different levels as well. There's P1s, P2s, and P3s that you guys can prioritize and say these are urgency ones. So the idea is let's narrow the scope. Look at the big hitters that's going to benefit the most amount of users first. There are some easy wins that we call JDIs. Just do it. Like, just throw that in. That's great to do. Change the contrast, etc. You can do that at a design core level, and it can propagate throughout the whole site. Look for patterns of where these things are happening. So it will show you some identifiers of, you know what, there must be something broken in a bit of the process here. So you can go back to where the source is, and you can be proactive as well. So there's lessons from the audit that will come, that's not just about fixing on the site, but fixing in the processes that you have as a business. It's very clear once you can see what you have as your landscape to then be able to prioritize, estimate the amount of effort, and then plan out the timeline to do that. The other flip side is once you have that audit, you can then be proactive and show the direction of where you are going with your compliance. And this holds favor with the legal challenges that you might get faced as well, by somebody asking, well, have you ever, having no idea about what's good on your website versus, yeah, we know what's not, but we are working towards it, is a very different conversation in the eyes of the law. So that having that gives you the barometer, the health check, the standing point in the line in the sand of where you can move forward from. And we do this exercise a lot. So, for example, there's 300 issues that we discover. When you put it through WCAG 2.2, it breaks into about 20 themes, for example. Within each of those themed buckets, there are 15 fixes that need to be made. And then you're only really generating 10 plus user stories to fix a significant amount of those issues. The timeline is the different consideration. Michael, do you want this one?
Sure. Yep. So one thing is that as part of the regulation, the legal requirements, you are required to actually have a paper trail. So you need to document what have you been doing with accessibility, what are the issues you've identified, what you're planning to remedy it, and how do you move forward. And it is to understand that your site will never be 100% compliant. It's too costly, too expensive, not feasible. So this is about showcasing how good are you at being compliant and working with it. Next one.
I can say this one if you like. It's Yeah, it's a long run. There's no sprint here, and there's no silver bullet to get compliant in time. If you guys haven't got things on the roadmap and you don't know what your to-do list is, it's not the end of the world. You're moving forwards. It's just the law will come into effect. The likelihood that you will be sued, and I'm going to finger crossed on that one, that on day one, on the 29th of June, is super light. But the idea is that, are you making proactive direction to get there? So you have to be realistic about the timeline to get all the issues resolved. Everyone has working budgets. Everyone has a full Q3, Q4 pipeline and ambitions of what they're trying to achieve. So it's understanding that, hey, we're working on these issues. We're in that direction. We're getting there. And we've got a level of confidence that will be improved in every sprint. Maintaining that conformance, it's a lifelong process, and that sounds like a sentence, but it's a process for the website. And if you didn't do anything after an example of 30 updates, a rebrand on your site, loads of hot fixes, putting APIs in, new vendors, new portals, the site becomes a Frankenstein. It's a malleable thing. It's not a fixed set of code that you just build a stack on top of. It moves and it morphs. And that's why it's a constant maintenance of what you're going to be going into. The issues will take time. You have a client of ours has hundreds of thousands of assets that don't have tags. And it's great. And the sentiment is, oh, great, I get to update all the tags across my 30,000 images. That feeling can be very laborious. And there's a lot of things that need to be done around that. It takes time. And so it's being prepared for what is the big wins, the fast wins, and what are the things that you can do in iterative stages. Again, that's looking at the data and saying, hey, do I need to do all of this stuff today? Or should I look at the stuff that gets the most amount of views, the most amount of eyeballs, the most amount of interactions? Let's do that first. Let's do it in waves and stages. Be prepared that you need to bang a drum through the business to keep everybody's mindset within this. Change management processes, if you guys have been through any of those, org restructures, etc., it takes constant revisiting, constant reminding. It's not a one and done, like Michael mentioned earlier. It's not something like, hey, didn't we just do this last year? It's a case of, it's something that we need to be consistent in behavior at, and that gives you the monitoring. You got to in a macro level, not just monitoring of your site, but as this European regulation comes into play, it is up to every country's interpretation of that as well. And they will have some areas where they will be more strict and more severe on, or even embellish what it means to them. And there will be other areas where there'll be more leniency, which means there will be a 10, 20% of consistency variance between countries at its extreme, we believe. But the idea is that some regulations will change, and some things will evolve over time as well. Like you saw up front, the EAA is focusing on e-commerce as its forefront. It will absolutely, and there are plans for it to move into new directions. It will land and expand what this means across all digital fingerprints and touch points. So be abreast of that.
Yep. So I have a bonus tip for you, because we've been doing a lot of audits within Vimo. I've been doing a lot of audits as well. I want to show you some of the tools I've been using. So when you get this, the slideshow, if you want to look into the tools, the next slide is the one you want to look for. So as mentioned, automated tools catch at most 30%. So manual testing, if you want to be compliant or want to reduce risks, that's the way to go. And what you need here. So what we use is we use built-in tools like VoiceOver, Zoom, screen readers. But then we have this tool, Accessibility Insights, which is an extension to the browser. That can run a quick automated test for you, and it can do assistive manual tests. You still need to know what you're doing. You still need to be a developer, but it has a nice user-friendly quick scan tool. IBM Equal Access covers even more rules, but you need to be a bit more of a developer expertise in order to use that tool. The other tools, they're there to help assist these manual audits. So you can check out these tools where in the presentation if you want to have a stab at it yourself. It's quite complicated though, but here they are. Then the checkpoint of all the preceding slides. These are the topics we covered. So the main point is to understand the people. Then it's about having the right tools, avoid these overlays because they don't solve the issue. Having the right tools, you can run the quick tests, you can address common issues, you can dig deeper. And then the rest of it is about the mindset, thinking accessibility early, get this audit done, maintain the paper trail, and prepare your organization for the future. So that leaves us with questions. We have one question about B2B. You want to answer that, Henry?
Let me jump in. Yes, so B2B commerce websites. We mentioned a couple of times through here that they're focusing on what they call e-commerce. They don't specify on D2C or B, but they are saying if you are trading and you have a portal that your customers are engaging with, and this is the sentiment of what we've read and what the regulations are showing us, is that B2B, if you have it's way more subjective if it's behind customer portals. For example, if it's in logged in environments, but anything that's public facing that any customer will engage with, even if they can't end with a physical order, the idea is that that's classed as an e-commerce site because you can technically trade through it. It's something you're engaging with. It is a high sweeping answer. I know I would say e-retail is probably the prime candidates for this, but it does not exclude the fact that that all websites need to have this. You will see on government portals for sure that, and you'll see on news portals that they're adhering there. So because they're interacting with real customers, real visitors, real traffic. So if your site has an ability to connect with real customers, real traffic, real people, then it fits within the letter of what they're trying to improve. Yeah. Michael, anything to add on that one? I sort of did a rambling legal yes, no answer on that one.
I think the human side of it is they're considering that accessibility is also, for instance, a developer tool needs to be accessible. So a person with disabilities needs to be able to use that tool. And it's the same line of thinking. B2B customers, they're also humans. So it's that part. We also have a question about the legal information about that the site must be compliant before June 28. We can put that in the presentation when we share it.
Yes.
The link.
Yeah, it comes from the European Commission's website. There's a few other ones. We'll put the sources there, and you can use that as reference if you need to pull out anything. We're at time, so thank you for holding on to us. If there's any other questions, feel very free to put it in, and we'll pull out the key sentiments and answer them in this deck. I just want to leave you with two things. WCAG 2.2 that we mentioned up front is it's do that snapshot and an audit. That's going to give you one thing, but it's not a one and done silver bullet. You need to continually check your site and stay accessible within the current regulations. This is the way it's moving forwards. So remember that. And then generally around accessibility, the sentiment is around that we're inclusive. We are designing for all, and embedding that accessibility mindset through your business will improve your customer experience, will improve your conversion rate. There's a much bigger commercial uplift than doing it just because we're fearful of penalties. Vimo, this is the shameless plug if you're still hanging on. It's the idea, you guys are all at different levels of maturity. There is loads of different components to this. There's complexities and there are some absolute simplicities of just getting some stuff done. Wherever you are in your journey, we feel very welcome to give us a call, give us a shout. Our details will be on the deck as well. Vimo, because you arrived at this portal, we will happily sit on a call and discuss things with you for some free advice. We will happily get involved and help you along the way, wherever you may need that, from assessments to audits to just working out some estimates. let us know. That's what we're here to do. We're here to enable you guys to be able to do more things, to have more fun with e-commerce rather than just avoid those costly fines. And we will wrap up there. I'm 2 minutes over. I'm very good at going over time. So thank you so much for listening to us. Your engagement has been really good. We'll share the statistics. Please keep adding questions in now. I'll leave this session running for another couple of minutes. We will answer all of them. I'll put a Q&A answer sheet in here as well, because I think some of the questions that are coming through that I can see just now will be useful to everybody. And we will share this deck out with you guys as a follow-up. But we really appreciate your time today. It's Friday. I understand we're all making future plans. So hopefully next week you guys will have accessibility top of mind and feel a little bit more geared to banging that drum. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Yes.